This butterfly kaftan is actually looking very beautiful, so you can make your space a little bit smaller. Okay, if you want it wider the way I have mine, you can also do. So in this class I'll teach you the tips and tricks. Please stay tuned to the end of this tutorial if you actually want to learn how this beautiful gown was sewn. Thank you. So to begin this tutorial, I'll be using Ankara prints. So here I have 6 yards, but I'm going to cut off 4 yards for this tutorial. And I also have my Dolphin satin fabric. So the Dolphin satin fabric, I'll also use less than 4 yards. So I will advise, if you are working on this dress, use your whole 6 yards, okay? But we are not going to use up to 6 yards. We are going to use about 4 yards or thereabout. But I encourage you to use the whole 6 yards of Ankara. Then place the Ankara comes by 45. So when you place it into 2 equal folds like this, it's going to serve as the sleeve. So we are cutting the back right now. So I just put it on fold, as you can see, and here will serve as my center back. So like I said, we are cutting the center back first. So since we are cutting out the center back first, I'm going to work exactly with what I have right here. So it has a zipper. So on the folded part, I'll just go ahead and mark out 1 inch zip allowance. So this is going to serve as my, or let me use this part. Since it's open, I'm going to use it for my zipper allowance. Then I'll use this part for the sleeve. So once you fold it into 2, just go ahead and mark out 1 inch zip allowance. So I will mark the 1 inch zip allowance to the end. That is the first thing I'm going to do. So after I'm done ruling out my 1 inch zip allowance from beginning to the end of the length of the dress, the next thing I will do is to create my border line. So my border line will serve as my starting point, which is another 1 inch. So I love to create border line so I will know where my starting point is, and also create room for seam allowance. So I will use this open part as my both my center front, center back right away. Sorry, my center back zip allowance, that's what I meant to say. So I'll place my tape on this line, and I'm going to take it all the way my vertical measurement. So the first vertical measurement, of course the part we are going to sew right now, we might not need our chest line because there is no armhole going to be created for that part. So we'll just simply jump into the the reason we will just jump into the half length. Okay, even to the half length, we don't need the half length as well, because this is just very free at the back. You can see the sleeve, it looks like a butterfly sleeve, cut together butterfly sleeve. So I'll just go ahead from that point and mark out my hip line. So I think so here is my hip at 29. So I'm going to mark my hip at 29, and the next I'm going to mark is going to be my full length. So I just want to work with 57. Then I'll just add 1 inch, which is 58 inches. So I'm going to cut out my fabric at this length. So it depends on your length anyway. So after that is done, we want to start constructing the neckline. So on the neckline, I'm going to take my neck width. So the neck width I'm going to work here with, I'm going to use a canoe neckline. So I'll just do, my shoulder is already 7.5, so I'll just go in by 1, 2.5. So let me do 5 inches. Okay, but I want it to be at 5 inches after sewing, so let us do 4.5. So now we are going to mark out the neckline. So the neckline, I'm working with 4.5. okay, for the depth, and the back is 2.5. So that is the back neckline we are working with right now. So I'll just go ahead and connect my neckline like this. So I'll just go this way and connect. So you can just connect with your free hand if you wish, just to give you exactly what you want. So after connecting the neckline, the next we will do is to come over to the hip line. So like I said, on the hip line, I'll also create my 1 inch. I have to rule this 1 inch zipper allowance to the end. So I'll just rule the line to the end, from the neckline to the end. So this is my hip line. So on the hip line, I'm going to take the measurement of my hip divide by 4. It's a fitted dress, so hip divide by 4, I have it at 12. So I'll mark, and I'll just add seam allowance. So seam allowance I'm adding here, both ease and seam allowance is 1.5. So everything I have here will give me 13.5. So 1/2 inch is for ease and 1 inch is for seam allowance. Please take note of that. I'll come back to the hem, and I'm going to mark the same 13.5. So it all depends if you want to make it all straight from the hip. But if you want to make it a little bit pencil, from that point you can go in by 1 inch. So instead of marking 13.5, you simply mark it at 12.5. So just to make it a little bit pencil at that point. You can still go in by 1.5, but 1 inch is okay. I don't want to go too pencil. So now I'm going to use my hip curve, or my curve ruler, to connect the hip area. So if you notice, you can see that the butterfly connection started from the hip area. Okay, so from the sleeve part of this, I'm going to extend the sleeve part of it, and we'll begin to create the butterfly connection. So the curve on the, that is the curvy part of it. So what I have from here to the hip line, I'm going to use it as my guide. So here I have 28. So it depends on how many curve you want to make. So at that 28, half of it is 14, quarter of it is 7. So I can just make that curve at 7 inches. But if you look at the first one, it started halfway, so I will do 3.5 first. After 3.5, I'll do 7. After 7, I'll do another 7. Then after that, I'll do another 7. So this another 7 I'm going to do, I'll start connecting it in a curvy way. So to connect it in a curvy way, the first one I'll connect from 2 inches. Just watch what I'm doing. So I'll come in with my curve ruler. So I'll place it this way. Can you see how I placed it? So it's actually very technical, this sleeve design. So once I curve it, I'll also come back again and measure another 2 inches. So sorry about this, I was supposed to start from here and connect to the 2 inches. Okay, so instead of placing my ruler this way, I'll place it this way. Sorry about that. So we'll go into 2 inches like this. Okay, so after that, I'll divide this 7 inches by 2. That's, I'll create another 3.5, and from this 3.5, I'm going to connect place my ruler the same way I did again. So the same way you placed it this way, flip it this way again and connect. So you actually need to be creative in making this. Then you now measure another 2 inches and connect. So just be conscious of how the ruler placement. Okay, so you can see the curve is following the shape we have on the thumbnail. So after that one, I'll come back again and repeat the same process. Divide by 2. The way I place, I'll place. Then I'll also place 2 inches. So I place this way, I'll place this way. Can you see that? Then I'll divide again. So this is what I'll keep doing till I get to the end of it. Okay, so I place like this, I place like this. And I measure my 2 inches. So make sure they are equal because this is a patterned dress. It's a patterned design. So we have gotten the sleeve. So now if you look at what we have 1, 2, 3 curves. So this curve now, I'll just come this way and take it, connect it this way. From there, I'll just connect it that way because everything is on the hip line. So we are done with what we have here. Next we are going to do is to contour the back. So to contour the back, because there's a zipper, just go ahead and mark out your waist line. My waistline is 17. So you know I have 1 inch already. So I'll just go ahead and this is my 1 inch. I'm going to contour by 0.75. So I'll use this part of my tape and go in by 0.75. So this part you are familiar with it. I'll just go over to my neckline and take it this way. So you know, to avoid zip bulge, that's what I'm doing right here. So I'll take it all the way to that point and then cut it out. So you can see the back now. So the back is ready and this is the hip line. So if you want this to end beyond the hip, you can now go ahead and connect to beyond the hip, but we are going to stop exactly at the hip line. So I'm going to cut out this shape right now. So on getting to the part I want to connect, instead of connecting it slant, I just want to follow the hip line a little bit this way, so it's not that slanted. I believe you understand. So I think it's better this way. I just thought of it now, just to go this way. All right, so make sure you have your exact hip circumference divided by 4. Mine is 12. I added 1.5, so I'm very sure. So I will now cut from there. So I just cut from there to the hem. Alright, so this is the shape of what we have for our dress. So make sure you contour the back as well. Just cut out the contour line. So actually we are going to use what we have on the back pattern to cut out the front pattern too, and we'll also use it to cut the lining. So I'm going to cut out my lining. So I'm working with Doll Face satin fabric, so I'll just simply fold it the way it is right here on top of my lining. Okay, so I'll just place it on top of my lining and cut out 2 pieces. So but before that, let us cut the front piece. So this is the part we cut out the back from. So like I said, you can just go ahead and use your whole 6 yards. Anything remaining, you can use it for the scarf. Okay, so for this part, I'm going to fold according to my hip circumference divide by 4. This is the front piece I'm cutting out. So my hip circumference divide by 4 is 12. Then I will add 1.5, just like I did for the back. So in other words, I'm folding these to 13.5. Now I'm cutting out the front piece. Okay, so I'm just going to take my vertical measurements, making a border line from the shoulder line. I'm going to place my tape, mark up my chest line, my waistline, my hip line, and the full length of the gown. So this is just the front piece. So I'm going to impute my neckline width and my neckline depth, as you can see. Then I'll place my shoulder measurement, divide by 2, come down by 1 inch to slant my shoulder, then measure my bust area, create my armhole as usual, go in by 0.75, connect, then my bust divide by 4 and add my seam allowance of 1.5 inch. My waist, you also add your seam allowance of 1.5 inch. Of course, it's a fitted dress, as you can see, so we are also going to fit it, as you may see. So on the hip, I'll mark my hip divide by 4 plus 1.5 inch. Then I'm going to connect everything. So coming over to the hem, I'll just take off 1 inch from the hem, just to make it a little pencil. Of course, you know how to go about this. So just go ahead and cut out your front gown piece, as you can see. So you can also go to the knee and take off 2 inches from what you have on your hip and take it to the hemline. So we have 2 options for that, and that is exactly what I just did right now. So after cutting out your dress, the front part of it is going to serve as a base for the cape. So I'm cutting out the neckline, the armhole, and I'm going to cut out the sides, which I added my ease and my seam allowance. So this is what my dress looks like right now. So we are going to jump into the front piece right away. Now I'm done cutting the back. So after cutting the back piece, the next is to cut out the front piece, okay, with the Doll Face satin fabric. So we are going to cut another piece of the front piece. I believe you understand. So you have to fold your Doll Face. This is the one that is going to be on the upper part of the front piece we just cut on fold right now, okay, which is the butterfly part of it. So here I place my fabric again on fold like this. So here is on fold, and I'm going to bring in the back piece. So this is the back piece that has the I would like call it kimono extension. That's the butterfly part, but I believe you understand what I'm talking about. So I'll just place it and trace out this shape. Can you see? So I'm tracing out this shape right now. So make sure you place it in a way you'll be able to trace out the shape appropriately. So I'm just arranging it to be sure I have exactly what I'm looking for. So for the front, I'm going to make a mark on this line. Note that this is the center front line, so I'll just extend the line. Later I'm going to also extend this line straight. So that is the front line. So after that, I'll trace out the neckline. I'll trace out the, so you can just secure with your pin. Okay, you can just secure with your pin like this. You can also trace out or secure with your pin and cut out the shape, but I just want to draw out the shape because the front piece, we are still going to work on the center front part. So that's why I prefer to cut out the shape of this. All right, so now this is the half or the hip line, so this hip line, I'm going to connect what I have here now straight. So since I've traced it out, I'll take off what I have right here, because now we are going to actually design the front the way it is right there on the thumbnail and on the video. So to do that, you are going to define the center front area, which is this. You are going to define the hip line area, which is this. So here is my neckline, which I traced out, and this is the shoulder line and the sleeve line. So our attention right now is going to be on the neckline. So on the neckline, to have an even distribution of this, I'll just mark out my chest line and my waistline. So this will serve as a guide from the center front. So from the center front on the neckline, I want to go in from there by 0.75, so that when I open it, I'll have 1.5. Then here I want to go in by 1.5, so that when I open it, I'll have 3 inches. On the waistline, I want to go in by 2.5, so that when I open, I'll have 3 inches, 5 inches. So after the waistline, you can see I came in by 2.5. So on the hip line, I'll come in by 8 inches, so that when I open it, I will have about 16 inches. So please be very careful on how you place this. So I'm going to connect what I have right away, so you can actually freehand it. You can also place your pattern ruler. So just go ahead and connect. Then this one, I'll bring it and blend it up here. Can you see? So everything goes in like this. So that is how I'm going to cut it out now. So I'm cutting it out. So now I've cut out both lining and fabric for the front, but because we use the back to cut out the front, the neckline is a little bit high. So I'm going to bring in the front neckline. So I'm going to place the front neckline, and I'll use it to trace out the neckline. Okay, so you just have to place it to match up with what you have here, and then we are going to trace it out. So I'll just go ahead and trace out what I have. All right, so with this we have the right neckline right now, so you can see everything is matching up. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out the lining that we'll be using for the front. So I have finally cut out the lining, and now we want to cut the base that will carry the sleeve. Okay, for the base that will carry the sleeve, we are going to also create another bodice for the back, just like we did for the front. So here I'm marking out my vertical measurements, just cutting out my back measurement from the shoulder to the hip line. Okay, just the normal way you cut out the back. Impute your waistline, add 1.5 inch, impute your hip line, add 1.5 inch, like we did to the front. But for this, it's going to be half because it's just to carry the sleeve. Okay, so here you can see the zipper allowance, and I'm contouring it right now. So make sure you contour it because there will be a zip at the back right now. So I replaced what I contoured for this particular part. Of course, you know how to go about this part. So right now you can see me cutting the base, and I'm also cutting a lining for it as well. So I'm creating the neckline for the back as well, placing the back piece on top of it, the already cut back piece on top of it. Now so I've cut out lining for it as well. Okay, so it's just a simple half back, just to create a base for the sleeve. So the next thing we want to do is to cut out the patterns. So to cut out the patterns to paste on the cape, I'm using my hemming gum, as you can see, and right here I'm going to also place a doll face fabric. So with my steam iron, I'm going to iron it now. I've stick it with my steam iron. Okay, so I can now go ahead and cut out the shape. So I just want to cut out the shape of the pattern on my fabric. So I just take my time and cut it out. So these three, I'll use it only on one piece, on one side, and I'll pick up another one like that. So I'll take my time now and cut out the shapes the way I want, then paste them on top of the pattern. Go ahead and stitch all beside it. After cutting them out, I'm going to paste it on the front cape as I desire. Okay, then stitch. I'm done stitching the pattern. Okay, so you can do as much as you wish to do. So for this tutorial, I'm just doing but a few. So if you look at my stitches, you can see I use my zigzag machine to achieve this. So you can use anything you wish to achieve this. So after sewing this, we are going to match front and back. Okay, we are going to sew front and back. So here is the back. So I'm going to find the right side of the back and kiss it to the right side. So here is the right side for my back. So I'll simply go ahead and kiss their shoulder line together and sew. So I'll go back to my machine now. I'm going to sew only front and back. Can you see that? Only front and back, leaving the zipper open. I'll do that for both of them. Sewing the shoulder lines together, I will sew for the lining as well. Then I'm going to match everything together and sew the scallop. Please make sure you notch the scallops very well so you'll be able to turn it. Now I'm notching and I'm going to turn it around and give it a good press. So now I've ironed out the cape very appropriately for both of them. Now I'm going to sew the fabric and the lining, shoulder seam line to shoulder seam line, for fabric and for lining as well. Give them a good press. Now I'm laying the cape on top of the fabric and I'll arrange it very well, secure with my pin. go over to my machine, sew the neckline. So make sure the neckline aligns very appropriately. So after sewing the cape to the front piece of the dress, this is what you are going to have. So now if you look at the gap we have here, you can see it's actually very big because we cut at 0.75 without seam allowance. So when you are taking the measurement of this part, please reduce the measurements. You can do 0.5 or 0.25. So by the time you sew in 0.5, you have exactly 1.5. I believe you understand. So I will now bring my lining. I've sewn the shoulder seam line as well. So I just go ahead and place my lining seam line to seam line too. So I'm going to now use this to turn the whole dress as usual. So I'm going to secure with my pin, place my notches, top stitch as usual, turn, give it a good press. Then I'll bring it back to sew the sides. You can see I've finished my neckline using my lining. So I top stitched and also use my hemming gum to press it down. So the next thing I will do is the normal dress we know. Normal sewing of the inner pieces. So I'll just turn it to the wrong side. So if I turn to the wrong side, this is the part I'm going to sew my zipper. So I'll just go ahead and push in the cape. I'll push in the cape. I'll pick up fabric to fabric. I'll stitch. For this one that has a half base, I'll stop at the half base. Okay. Then for the lining, I'll also sew and stop at the half base. So I'm going to sew off the 1 inch seam allowance I added. I'll repeat the same thing the other way. So let me finish the inner piece, then I'll show you how to sew the outer piece. Right, now I'm done sewing the sides of the dress. Okay, so the part I show you where we are going to have the sleeve, I'm done sewing them, both lining and fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to sew the zip. So to sew the zip, I've already joined up to the zipper point, fabric to fabric and lining to lining. So the longer lining, that is the part I joined first for the zipper. Then while this part, when I'm going to turn the lining, I'll turn everything together, as you can see. So I'll just go ahead now, sew my zip on the fabric alone. So once I'm done sewing my zip on the fabric, I'm going to turn everything to have a perfect inseam finishing. So my zipper, and I stitch my zipper only on the fabric, as you can see. So I also left my slits only on the fabric as well, and also at the lining. So I'm going to turn my main lining, the short lining, the short base, everything I'm going to turn all of them this way. Okay, so you can decide to sew the zip first, because what I'm seeing right here, we could have stitched this zip before we stitch the side, so it will be easy for us to turn everything and sew. But I'll just find my way around it now. So I'm going to turn everything to the part of the zipper I just stitched. Then I'll secure with my pins. I'm going to secure with my pin this way. Go over to my machine with my zipper foot. I'll sew close. Having sewing the zipper, I'm going to close up the sides of this dress from the hip line, fabric to fabric, lining to lining, and don't forget to reduce your lining by 1 inch for perfect inseam. I want to show you how to finish up the slit area. Okay, you know this is a full lining, that we are making right here. So I'll just go ahead and make sure I match the seam lines of lining and fabric. You can see what I'm doing here. Secure with your pin. So once you have done that, the next is to turn it over this way. You know the slit is going to be folded at 1 inch. We are going to sew it at 1 inch. So I'll just turn it to the wrong side this way, picking the fabric and the lining. So I'm going to sew right now. So I'll just open up everything. From the parts we have the slits, I'll just go ahead and make sure I start stitching. So you can see my pin. So I'll just go ahead and start stitching from where the slit matches with the lining. The lining matches with the fabric, sorry. So if you look here, you can see my stitching line. So I'll continue the stitching line till I get to the end. I'll do the same for the other part as well. I'm giving my slit a good press, and I'm going to sew the hemline right now. Now I've stitched everything seam line to seam line to the end. So coming over to this other part, I'll open up that 1/2 inch seam and lay it flat. Can you see? So I'll just lay it flat and follow the where I stuck my stitches to the end. That is what I'll do for the other side. Stitching the hem right now. I'm going to turn it from the sleeve area because the sleeve area is still open. Then you can give it a good press. Attach your sleeve. This is my basic sleeve. I'm going to sew it to the dress, after which I'm going to shape in the size of this dress like butterfly kaftan. Okay, so just take your measurements and shape in it. So when you are stitching, please make sure you don't stitch the fabric. Okay, so the fabric has to be free inside. Can you see my hand? That shows it's free inside. So I also did the same for this side. I shaped it accordingly. So I'm going to place my stones to decorate only on the dark part, as you can see right there. So I'm going to finish the stones later. So that is how we come to the end of this tutorial. Please don't forget to go in by 0.5 instead of 0.7 or even 0.25. So by the time you take in, you have it a little smaller as it is right there on the thumbnail. So thank you very much for coming to this tutorial once again, and I believe this class was helpful to you. If you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, drop your comment on the comment section and your suggestions as well. Thank you once again. See you in the next class. Bye.